He was off seeking valor in the war, despite the fact that he did not know the sharp end of a saber. I received word of his death. They said he died charging the enemy as his men retreated. Oh, the idiot. I didn't believe one word of it. I had to clean and prepare his corpse. He died with soiled pantaloons. Of course, he'd been shot in the back. I spent the rest of my days in these widow's weeds, mourning. How queer that I should return in them and be stuck here again. What am I mourning now? Myself, most likely. Certainly not that pompous little nobody. That pigeon-livered flap-doodle. Oh, Gregory! Oh, is that you? Oh, I'm so sorry, my dear. I really did not recognize you. Allow me to introduce my husband, Gregory Snodgrass, the master of Bellevue. Please attend his knocks carefully, or we may provoke him. Well, please, Gregory, not in front of our guests. He is furious at me for allowing our home to burn. I did what I have always done. I took account. Bellevue Plantation's 100 slaves were worth $800 apiece. That was a fortune compared to the mere thousands the plantation house cost. It was the Christian thing to do. I couldn't let those poor creatures fend for themselves and starve, or worse yet, have them give in to their baser instincts and turn on us. Well, I am still waiting for my reparations from those officers. You probably just would have gotten shot in the back again, I'm sure. Strike me? Go ahead. Try. It is as I suspected. You are just as hollow in death as you were in life. There's no need to fear the knockings of a non-entity. Well, it appears that we are all just sort of stuck here in this parlor with him. Just ignore him. Shh. Oh my God in heaven, what is it? Oh my. Oh, in this hollowed tome are all the documents I hid from the invading Yankees. There are many letters, ledgers, deeds, and epitaphs. The paper-thin boundaries of material existence have been gifted to me. Yes, Gregory, something does seem to keep us tied here together. But perhaps from these scraps, I might connect my distant memories to my newfound form. You want me to read from my ledger? Well, I know the year just by looking upon it. 'Twas 1837. I was a young woman then, said by my father to be at the height of my powers at just 16 years of age. I was beautiful. Well, I was pretty. I was plain. But I was rich. Purity ruled appearance and piety the rest. But I held open a precious spot for mathematics and figures. Each day I took it upon myself to keep track of my property. Gregory's property. Do you love the fourth? Another first day in the summer of our yields has arrived at Bellevue. Our cotton is resplendent. The first bowl exploded open, then the next one, then the next. Millions, a white audience, blizzard, settled across the fields. July the 5th, the Sabbath, we returned from church to find our poor servant woman, Sina, in bed with a fever. We gave her the common remedies, liniment plasters and quinine. We do not consider her case dangerous. July the 6th, under 150 pounds picked per hand today. Gregory is displeased, says the overseer will become familiar with their backs. 20 bills a day at 400 pounds each and not one peck less. Yields are going to rise. July the 7th, we returned again today and Sina was not present. She claimed to still be flu-ridden, so I called in the young doctor. He applied an opium plug. He did inform me privately that yesterday morning she lost another infant. July the 8th. We have benefited greatly from our connections in Manchester and Liverpool. Why, they buy our cotton even when their factories cannot process it. Praise heaven, we don't rely upon machines. Our labor remains more efficient. Your father and I have clothed the world, my dear. And if we choose to raise prices, why, they must pay them. July the 9th. Sina died of fever this morning. She leaves behind 9 motherless children that I shall personally have to find a way to care for. Oh, well, don't scold me. You know I was ceaselessly anxious when our servants were sick. I was not being hysterical. I think my response was perfectly reasonable. July the 10th. Today I sold half of the children that Sina left behind to my dear cousins. I also sent along a cotton blanket, which I have sewn with my own 2 hands. The rest of Sina's children I sold to the wool folks, who paid cash but refused to haggle. As such, they did not receive a blanket. July 11, we shall have candidate Dumfries loan us money for 6 new hands. He says, I believe that family farmers are the backbone of this great nation, but we'll see him put his money where his mouth is. He thinks he'll get one over on us, but there's no way his campaign goes on without our finances. He says he borrows at 5%, 5%, do I see 5.5, 5.5, 6 over there, 6 over there, 6.5, 6.5, 7.5, 7.5, 8%, I say 8% interest ahead, not 1 penny more, I will not pay more. Oh my God, I must have the cotton fever. I am so worked up. Perhaps I should explain. You see, if you have slaves, then you can have cotton. And cotton always sells high. And if cotton sells high, you can have credit. And if you have credit, you can have capital. And if you have capital, why, you can have anything that you want. These runaway loans and speculations will fall to the hands of the Mississippi taxpayers if we find it troublesome to pay. For we do not only deal in cotton, my strange dears. We deal in money, value, figures, in New York investors, Liverpool mills, Amsterdam stocks, Hamburg banks, and Parisian entrepreneurship. The whole of many nations are borrowing against our mortgage slaves. Imagine, while a man in China is donning a shirt made of southern cotton across the globe, a Londoner is buying a bond for 1 slave-sized slice of our southern-grown profits. It's quite elegant, really. Everything is wired like a telegraph machine, so that capital, that God-given element of creation and destruction, might flow more unimpeded between us. Oh my, I feel more myself than I have in ages. I must settle more of this ledger with the world. Where should I begin? Perhaps you would like to hear the passionate missives of my many suitors. Well, of course I had suitors. They were chasing my wealth, if not my beauty. Don't worry, I did not remarry. Why would I give up my own emancipation? No, I do not want to read them your account of the Battle of 7 Pines. Because after surviving the war, the childbearing, and your dull rotting, I get to choose a generation ago that my ancestors fought on the side of King Charles in the English Civil War. We fought nobly for the divine sovereignty of our property then, and so I shall stand for the ideals of the founding fathers now. Gregory believes that property is some sort of divine right, that the war was some disagreement between gentlemen. Then he goes with his argument about states' rights and taxes. Please. The war was about preserving our way of life. It was about keeping our slaves. Not that it mattered. When Reconstruction came, we still had our land and our labor, so I rebuilt what we had before. After all, sharecropping was just slavery by another name, so little changed. The rights of the state, we were the state. The old aristocracy retook the state house, and we passed laws that preserved the natural orders of things. Our family prosperity did not last. Elmira and George Washington never grew past the decade of their childhood. So when the revivals came, with their songs and saccharine promises of dispensation, the children flocked to hear how the Old South would be reborn, along with Jesus Christ himself in the imminent second coming. This new inerrancy of the Bible elevated and comforted those who felt cast down. But eventually, as our family torch was passed on, George Washington took up with a kind of social club, started by veterans who refused to surrender or be reformed. They sort of wore white hats. Elmira was a society girl. She had a hand in every cause. She would take me to her Southern Society events, make me this paralyzed prop for her speeches. Oh, but they had the most delightful hymns there, though, full of verve and vigor. Really, you must hear them. A little didactic, but otherwise quite nice. Troublesome times are here, filling men's hearts with fear. Freedom we all hold dear, now is at stake. Lifting your heart to God, saves from the chastening rod. Go the way pilgrims trod, Christians away.
We gather today to celebrate the achievements of our own race and blood. There was never a greater indignity imposed upon a greater people than the ravages of Reconstruction upon the gentry of the South.
Yet, from the Soldiers' Aid Societies, sewing socks and uniforms, to the Ladies' Memorial Associations, exhuming men from battlefields and placing them in honored graves, we have forged a group of women unified 100,000 strong under the banner of the United Daughters of the Confederacy.
We have established today not only monuments of bronze and stone, but living monuments.
When we ask, what was the war fought for? Our children will speak in unison, Southern rights and honor.
Our textbooks are in every Southern school, our monuments in every city square, but it is important that the individual be the true monument, that you be a monument.
The finest demonstration I could give you of such a figure is my dear mother, Dolores Amelia Snodgrass.
Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom, trumpets will sound. All of the dead shall rise, righteously in the skies, going where no one dies, heavenward bound.
The Federal Army broke my poor mother, and carpetbaggers and immigrants are robbing our children of their birthrights.
We, precious darlings, full of the Spartan blood of our mothers, must stand invincible in the faith of the ultimate glory of the principles for which our country surrendered its all, for the glorious brightness of freedom, for the precious feeling of safety, for the right to rest in Jesus.